welcome. Happy Wednesday. How you guys doing? We're going to be doing pentatonics. We're going to be playing over the blues. I'm actually already doing it. You might not think so. It's just some new pentatonics. So if you like this kind of sound, get to your instrument. We're going to get started in just a second. This is a GPS guided practice session. So we're going to be doing some call and response. I'm going to be doing some talking while I'm playing, or trying to. If you like F blues, you're in luck, because that's what we're playing all this over. But it's not going to be all that complicated either. That's pentatonic. You're like, what? No, it's not. Yes, it is. We're going to learn that. There's a free PDF available to follow along. You don't need it. If you want to go by ear, that's great. But you can download it now or afterwards. But this is the vibe and the sound that we're going to be going for. Welcome in. I'm Peter Martin. We're going to be studying two pentatonics that you need, I need, we all need to be able to play effectively over the blues. And if you don't know these pentatonics, I'm going to break it all down for you, and then we're going to practice in real time. So start getting yourself to your instrument if you can, or if you want to just follow along and do it later, that's fine too. But don't feel convicted. Don't feel like you've been missing out. Don't feel ignorant or ignorant, as we say, if you don't know these, because to be honest, I didn't know these were pentatonics until this morning. This is all stuff that I've played a lot. But I'm always looking for ways to like explain things that maybe will make a little bit more sense, or just like a different approach to getting a certain sound. So I've always known about this sound. You know, and been able to play it and picked it up over the years, over many years on different records and stuff from doing that. But the idea of like, how do we sort of systematize this? How do we practice it? How do we explain it? How do we start to get it in our fingers? How do we learn it in one key and then have the possibility to be able to take it to other keys and to be able to start using it like that? That I started to look at like ways maybe to decode it. So that's what the general sound is. And you might say, oh, you're just playing some nice blues. Yes, but it's different from the blues scale, right? These pentatonics that I'm going to teach you today work really well with the blues scale. I was going up with one of the pentatonics, actually number one, coming down with the blues scale, but they're different than the blues scale, but they work really well over blues. Okay, so I'm going to give you two, which I think will open up some interesting places. We're going to talk about how to use them. We're going to sort of demonstrate with a call and response, play a blues together. I'm going to walk a bass line for you guys. I'm going to play something. You're going to play it back when we get to the sort of guided practice section. And then we're going to just talk a little bit about, well, we talked about the PDF, so you can download that to follow along. But this is a great one to try to do by ear. We're going to start out. We've got 7 different kind of improvisational exercises that we're going to go through, and at least the first couple of ones I think that you may be able to do by ear, so I want to encourage you to do that. We always get the great benefits of ear training when we're not just looking at the page, when we're not just thinking about rhythms in terms of how they are laid out on the page, but just how the music feels. Because as much as this is about learning these cool scales and the patterns that go along with them, it's also about how do we put them, how do we place them in the music, in this case, in a blues, at this nice kind of groovy tempo, this sort of medium tempo. How do we place these in a way that feels good? Because we can't just run up and down any scale. That's not going to work. It has to be. Right? You have to place them in the right place. So I've worked out some exercises specifically for that. Okay, before we get started, if you get a chance, some of you have done this already, drop in the comments where you are in the world. I always love to see that, and think about some of these places that I might have been or have some connection to. Puts a smile on my face to have happy memories, like North Carolina. Noel's from North Carolina. That's where a lot of my family, my mom and dad, are both from there. Nice, France. I have a lot of happy memories from being there this time of year for the great Nice Jazz Festival up on the hill there and by the water. I've been going there since, 1991. Whoa. Macedonia, never been there, want to go. Love the wine from Macedonia, though. What's up, Barcelona? Barcelona is in the house. One of the most beautiful places, of course, on the planet. Havana, Cuba. What's up, Kevin? I want to go to Havana. Somebody bring me there, please. Bavaria. Love Bavaria. Utah, Arizona, Germany. Das ist gut. Göteborg, Sweden. What's up? London, England. BC, British Columbia. A couple thousand miles from here. Another Göteborg, Gothenburg. Anchorage, Alaska. I've only been to the airport. Cleveland, one of the first times I went to Japan, this is how long ago it was. I think we had to stop for an unscheduled refueling in Anchorage. Santa Fe, New Mexico. San Antonio, Vienna, Austria. Seattle, Vienna, one of the greatest music cities in the world. Alberta, Canada. Calgary, Sweden, California, Long Island, Lisboa. That's great places here. Saturn, interesting. Argentina, Denmark, Manchester, England. Born in Havana. Shout out Brazil. Brazil is the #1 country in the world. You might have some competition on here, but Brazil is an amazing place. I know some Brazilian musicians that know how to use these pentatonics. Antwerp, Belgium. Memphis, just down the road from us here, about 4 hours. Firenze, Florence, Italy. Azure, that means blue, right? Vermont, Munich, another Munich. Nigeria. I want to go to Nigeria. I've been close, but not there. Ciudad Juarez. Pianist and vegan. That's what I'm talking about. From Argentina, as am I. Okay, we're going to get started in just a second here. Also, we have a great sale. Actually, today's the last. Is today the 10th? Yeah, we have a great sale going on at Open Studio. I'll mention some more about that later, but you can go to openstudiojazz.com and catch that for the next 8 hours or so. But it's kind of our biggest sale of the year, except for it's the same as Black Friday on the annual plan, which is a fun way to kind of come over. If you like, why don't you watch this first? See if you like it. If you like it, then we'll talk about that. Okay, let's talk about pentatonics. Now, a lot of you are thinking, like I do, when we talk about pentatonics, that kind of a sound. So a C minor pentatonic, got the root, the minor third, the fourth, the fifth, the dominant seventh. And all the wonderful things we can do over that. So if we're looking at the F blues like we're doing today, and we layer in that minor pentatonic, that would be the C minor. Which is a great sound, but very different than that we're going to be doing today, okay? But that's that minor pentatonic. And just as a refresher, no shame in my game, no shame in your game if you don't know this. Pentatonic scale, as far as I know, just means a 5-note scale. I like to try to keep it simple. So that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's technically a pentatonic scale. But the ones that are kind of commonly known, the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic. So in F, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, root, right? And if it's minor in F, 1, 3, 4, 5, okay? That's all fine and good. So you might say, well, what's the one you're using? What's the one we're going to use over the blues? Well, there's certainly times where that major pentatonic will work, but it doesn't give us that real bluesy sound. For a long time, I would talk about the blues scale and the secret blues scale that we kind of concocted here at Open Studio, which is the regular blues scale, but with the major third and the minor third. But that's not even like a real thing. But these pentatonics we're going to learn today are a real thing. Okay? So let's take a look at it. We're starting on F, the root, minor third, major third, and that's the first clue and trigger point for us really to get that blues sound. I mean, just that part of it, that duality of minor and major, gives us a really nice thing over the blues, right? So we got root, minor third, major third, fifth, sixth, and root. But like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know this pentatonic scale until today, but I played it a lot. So I realized that just kind of how we look at this scale and where we start it really makes a difference. So we're clearly in the key of F, right? So you can probably already hear how this works nicely over the blues. But in terms of it being a scale, like the blues scale, very firmly rooted and starting on the F, right? But this, we're going to call this pentatonic blues scale number 1. Okay, that's not an official name. That's just what we're calling it. Where we start it really makes a difference. So I want to get you to orient from the very beginning, the same place where I typically hear the scale and feel it and play it. And that's starting on the 5th. So you might be thinking, oh, okay, root, minor third, no. Root is still F. All right, just like the time we're always going to feel there, the root on the F, everything comes from the tonic, the key that we're playing it. So we're going to start here and just play up that same scale. Okay, so 5th, 6th, root, minor third, major third, 5th. And then I'm just extending it up. Now, can you start on the root? Of course you can, but I want you to hear it and to learn it. That's the next one. We're going to get to that one. But you see how much sense it makes when you're coming off the 5th? Now, a scale like this, in really any scale, but especially this kind of a scale, it's not about running up and down it. There may be a time where I would do that and it could work good, right? But typically it's I'm breaking it up, right? So we're learning the notes and the shapes and the starting points and the ending points as much as we're learning the actual scale. That's why I say start on the 5th. And then it's all those different places that we can break it up. We're going to get to that in a minute. Now, in terms of like, now, you want to sing this as you're learning it, so you start to orient yourself around what these intervals are and how they relate, if you take it in other keys or whatever. Another thing you might notice this from, there's probably a bunch that I don't know. There's a couple that came to mind, tunes that make use of the scale or something very close. There's 4-in-1 from Thelonious Monk. So you might say, oh no, that's the major pentatonic. That's not this new blues pentatonic, number 1. But check it out. That's the actual line that he's playing. Now, yes, he is adding in that second, so he's not doing it straight there, but because it's playing through it quickly, it's very much that scale. We're in the key of E flat, so a little bit of adjustment here, but that's the line. So it's got that great major third and minor third, so Monk definitely used this. Back to F. Another one. Duke Ellington, things ain't what they used to be. Ah. That's the original key. Let's put it in F, because that's where we are today. That's the whole scale. It's just breaking it up. Fifth, root, third. Even goes to the major third, the minor third, and the major third. Okay? So that's blues pentatonic scale number 1. We're going to get to some really good applications with that. And really, you can use that over the entire blues. You don't have to switch. It's like the blues scale. You can stay on the F blues pentatonic number 1 for the entire course. Let me show you. I'm going to only use that scale. Even when I go to the 4, I'm still on that F pentatonic scale. To do some other stuff, but I didn't do anything else, okay? Now, we're going to learn one more scale, blues pentatonic scale number 2, that it's going to give us a little bit more options. So we can just use that one scale, and that's certainly your starting point. But once you get this second one, that's going to give you enough options, and we're going to look at how they kind of dovetail together, okay? So quick review. And if you're at your instrument, you can just play that starting on the 5th. Maybe up to the root. Slowly first. Start to break it up. Start to orient yourself around that scale. Okay? Blues pentatonic number 1. Blues pentatonic number 2. Let's take it to another chord, another key. We're still in the key of F, but we're going to go up to the 4 chord, and we're going to learn this scale based upon the B flat 7, the 4 chord, so that we get a little bit of a different sound, and that so we can look at some actual applications real soon here of how this is going to fit into the blues. Okay? So you might be saying, oh wow, that's exactly the same as that. It's very close. When we go root, minor third, major third, 5th, and now instead of the 6th, it's a dominant 7th. Okay? Blues pentatonic scale number 1 is to the 6th. This is to the, right? So this works really good on 4 chords on the blues, okay? It can work some other places too. On the 1, I'm sorry. But I like blues scale number 1, that's why I did it first on the 1 chord. And then we go to the 4. And they kind of work together nicely, okay? Let me just do a little bit of playing over the B flat 7. Okay, so we're still a key of F blues, but we're just gonna stay on that 4 chord a little bit. And this is gonna be how the blues pentatonic number 2 sounds. To the 1, blues scale number 1. We'll go to the 6, now 2. Did you see what I did there? 2 to 5, but I'm still on that blues pentatonic number 1. Okay? So that's really, that's what it is. That's our 2 scales. That's number 1, number 2. Okay? Now, I'm gonna play a whole chorus and I'm gonna shift back and forth just so you kind of get the sound. And then we're gonna do some play along, some play together, some call and response so you can think about getting to your instrument if you're not there already. We're gonna start more basic than this, but I want you to start to get the feel for the sound of how these two work together, okay? So we're gonna start on the 1, 2, a 1, 2, scale number 1. We go to the 4 chord. That's scale number 2. Back to number 1. Stay on number 1. Still number 1. Maybe go to number 2. Back to number 1. Number 2. Now, the only thing hard about that for me is just sticking to those 2 scales, because I want to go. And then even when I'm using the blues pentatonic, I want to combine them with the blues scale and some other things. We're going to get into a little bit of that kind of more advanced applications. But before we do that, we're going to jump in and do a little bit of playing together. And you might be thinking, uh-oh, I don't really know the scale yet. That's okay. This is the time when you're just going to kind of take what you've heard so far, react to what I'm doing. You can look at the PDF if you want, or you can just do it by ear. But we're going to do 2-bar call and response. And I'm going to give you plenty of chance. Take your time. The thing about this, you don't need to be thinking about the scales for this. I've done the thinking about the scales for you. And these are all totally inclusive of either blues pentatonic scale number 1 or number 2 or both. But you don't have to be thinking of this as we're playing it. The main thing I want you doing is really thinking about how it feels, how the groove is, how the vibe is, because any scale, pentatonic or otherwise, Lydian dominant, half whole, all these great scales, they only work when they're placed in the music in a way that feels good, okay? So that's something that when we get into the theory and stuff, gets a little bit lost, because you might get these notes and be like, wait, it doesn't feel like the way that you're playing it, but I'm playing the same notes. And so this is gonna be like some ear training, but not even so much for the notes. You're gonna be able to get the notes, I think, or at least on these first couple of ones. But this is like, can you get the feel? Can you get the vibe that we're trying to do? Because then you'll start to see how it's placed in the music, okay? So, the first one that we're going to do, number 1, is the same. All these are like 2-bar phrases. Some of them have 2 different versions, and you'll kind of see intuitively how it's split up within the chorus. But the first one is the same 2 bars. So it's like me 2 bars, you 2 bars, me 2 bars, you 2 bars. And it works over the entire blues. So we don't have to be worrying about, are we on the 1, are we on the 4? Is he playing a substitution or whatever? I'll try not to do too much of that. But this stuff just works over any blues playing the way that we are. Okay, so let me demonstrate it for you first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next chorus. Okay, that's all it is. Spit, beat, boop, do. That's all it is, but there's a lot there, right? I mean, clearly this is within that pentatonic. 6 minor 3rd root. But where's the placement? Like, where's the syncopation? Where's the vibe? Skip it, do, skip it, boop. It gives you a lot, even for the break, right? So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna play 2 bars, bip, bip, boop, skip, boop, boop, and then you're gonna play bip, bip, boop, bip, boop, and you want to try to match the feel, the swing, the groove, and the vibe. Okay, ready? I'll look at you each time it's your time. It's your time to play. I'll look at you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did it feel good? Are you starting to move in there? It's not going to happen like overnight, but I'll give you a couple tips. Bip, boop, boop. Make sure you honor the breaks. Like groove is as much about what you're playing as what you're not playing, right? Do go dee da ba. Okay, but that'll come. All right, that's number one. Let's move on to number two. This has got a little bit more to it, but it's not a big deal. Up there. So that's one chorus. So the phrase is 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you're learning this, sing it. If you're at the piano, if you're at the trumpet, you can't do it. If you're at the guitar, the piano, you can do it. Sing along. So this one's very foundational for that, right? Because we got the minor third and the major third. And it starts on the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So many different ways to practice this stuff. And if this seems really easy to you, I challenge you to nail it even more. What are some different ways you can think about it? Just rhythmically, like I'm doing. Sing along. Phrasing, all that kind of stuff. All right? So that's what we're playing over the one. There's a slight alteration for the 4 chord. Instead of you hear that? Sing along with it. And that's blues pentatonic number 2 over the B flat, right? But we don't really have to think about that. Remember I said that these scales, you'll learn them, you're practicing them, and then when we're doing the play along, you can throw it out the window, because an easier way to hear this and to feel it and to practice it, it's like what's different, right? Everything else is the same. That's how they dovetail together. All right? So I'm going to play 2 bars. You're going to play, we're going to do the same thing. You got it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play that same one. Back to the first one. One more chorus. Oops. See if you can play my mistake. Back to the first one. So that's number 2. Starting to see how they both fit together. Let's go on to number 3. This one's going to be the same throughout. It works throughout the whole thing. Okay? Now we're getting some triplets going. Triplets are great, eighth note triplets, because it gives us more chances to fit into the groove, right? And once we start fitting into the groove with our phrasing, with our swing, that's how we're going to attach ourselves to the vibe and that. You know, that way of phrasing where we're taking just basic notes, but we're making them sound good. Okay? So this one, 2, 3, 4. Right? And we're just going right up. Remember, we're starting on the 5th on blues pentatonic number 1. This one's great for really locking in the scale. Let's go right? 1, 2, let's trade. Your turn. Same thing. do this again. Just remembered, just noticed that we do have a slight alteration. It's not necessary, and all these, like, these exercises should just be a jumping off point for you to use your imagination after you start locking these in, after you get the scale locked in. Like, take this rhythm and create your own melody with the constriction, with the restriction of just that scale, and you'll start to come up with some really fun stuff. Okay, but for number 3, we do have over the 4 chord. So instead of we have we're just crafting it on that blues pentatonic number 2. Okay, so let's try one more chorus of this. Number 3, we'll make the change. Make sure you listen. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your turn. Now listen. Back to number 1. All right. That one was fun, right? Oh, also, we have brand new, I think this is the first time we've ever done it. For Open Studio Pro members, we have a backing track that I created where I'm just kind of doing this kind of thing for like 10 choruses or something. It's just audio, but it's real fresh. It's the same vibe, same key, of course, where you can practice all this stuff along with me if you want. That's available now for members, so there's a link below in the description. Okay, let's move on to number 4. This one's great because it fits over the whole thing. I mean, that sounds good, right? You could fit into a lot of jam session bandstands with that on a lot of gigs. If I'm playing a blues and I go there, like, I'm feeling good about that, okay? So, and that's all. As you're starting to see, this is like, okay, yeah, it's all within the blues pentatonic, but we're starting to look at some of the interesting skips. The shapes that give you those little skips as you get out of just playing the scale up and down. Okay, let's do a chorus of this one, number 4. 1, 2, I go first. Now listen, I'm going to make some alterations. Listen close. Always trying to stay in the groove. Okay, so that's another thing that you're going to start adding into your practice. Like, how do you... Still within the groove, still within the vibe, how do we take those same notes, that same general rhythmic and phrase trajectory, and make it our own? Have some fun with it, start to stretch it out, make sure that we stay within the groove. Okay? We're moving on. Let's go to number 5. Okay, this is the first one. Remember I told you I like to take these and combine them with the blues scale? This is the first sort of demonstration of that. And it might seem a little bit advanced for some of you, but just do what you can. But this is a fun way to start to get the actual application of how we can use these scales. I mean, we're already seeing how much great vocabulary we can do without adding any other scales, any other passing tones or anything. I mean, I play just with that one scale, okay? But when we combine it with another one, hopefully a little bit artfully, we can really have some fun. So this one is a pentatonic blues number 1 on the way up. And then we come down with the blues scale, right? With the straight blues scale. This one's fun. All right, let's do it. You got this. So that's our turning point when we leave. Once we get to here, we're into straight blues scale. Okay? 1, 2, let's do some trading. Still works over the 4, right? Still same thing. Sorry. Let's start this one all again. See, this is what happens when we try to talk and do this. Let's get this going. What I wanted to tell you was this same scale works over the same phrase. Even over the 2 to 1, the 3 to 6. It can work anywhere within the blues. Let's try this one again. For me. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of fun. Got almost non-stop eighth note triplets going there. Okay, pentatonic, up, coming down with the blues. Number 6, we're moving on. Should we take a breath? Take a little bit of breath. We're having fun with some pentatonics. Our 2 new blues pentatonic scales. Okay, so number 6 is. So this one's an interesting rhythm. No triplets until the very end. Skip-a-dick-dang. So we got a little bit of anticipation going into that 3rd beat on the 2nd bar. But so it's a fun rhythm. But I think the best part about it is, and what it kind of demonstrates is that shape that's within. You got that major 7th, the sharp 9, and the regular 3rd, or the minor 3rd and the 3rd. You've got that tension, that crunch. But this is really just an F13 sharp 9. That's the 13, the shell, and 2 roots. But like any kind of a shape, it's often more interesting when you break it up. So you could go. That's a fun thing to play, right? But when you start to break it up, that's when it really gets interesting. So that's what this phrase is. This is a hard one to sing. You can check yourself by singing it before you play. So you can try this out of time first. A lot of different variations once you get it. But let's do it the way it's written, the way we're learning it first. Okay? Ready for a chorus? Let's do this. 1, 2, let's trade me first. Again. Your turn. Let's do one more chorus. This one's fun. Make a mistake. Just get the feel right. Now the construction of this is interesting. You might be saying, wait a second, the 4th, that's not in it. We're shifting into, we're dovetailing, remember we talked about that, into blues pentatonic number 2. So this first bar with that great shape is blues pentatonic number 1, blues pentatonic number 2 coming down, okay? That's number 6. We just got one more. Number 7. There's 2 parts to this one, so let's check it out. Starts on 1. And then the second part for the 4 chorus. So what do we have here? Same thing like number 6, where we're using both blues scales, but this time we're actually shifting to the same tonic key for that scale. So in other words, that's all blues pentatonic number 1 over F, and then that last part of the phrase, because it's got the dominant 7th, we're going to number 2, okay? Because I wanted to show you how these work together, not just when we're going from the 1 to the 4 chord, but the next kind of advanced level, and it certainly goes on beyond here, is combining those 2 scales on the same chord. So these are F, blues pentatonic number 1, and pentatonic number 2. Shifting to number 2. Now you can just hear this as a line, because that's what it is. We're just combining those. And the reason this works and is interesting, I think, is because here, we're not going to that dominant 7th yet, we're doing the 6th, but we're sort of delayed gratification, so when we do get to it, it's interesting, right? So the duality of those, just like the duality of the major and minor 3rd. And then when we go to the 4 chord, that one's all blues pentatonic number 2, because that fits over that nicely. Okay, let's just try it. Don't think about it too much. Don't think about the theory. Just try to get the feel. I wanted to have a little bit more advanced concepts with this, but a little bit simpler rhythm. So we still want to be in that groove, but this is just all swinging 8th notes, okay? So I'll play, then you play. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check it out. That one takes a little bit to get to, but you'll get there. That's a good one to practice on your own. Okay? So that's our 7 exercises. And the way that you can think about this as you start to learn it, and you know, these kinds of new sounds, like this might not be a new sound to you, but it might be a new, like, oh, so that's what that is. That's what I'm hoping this will be. Once you hear that and then sort of make that connection and can play some of it, a lot of times the next day, like something about sleeping on it, letting your kind of subconscious or unconscious sort of marinate, let it marinate a little bit, it can start to really make sense for you, and you'll come back the next day with an even better grasp of it. So what you want to do is start to be able to identify this, and you'll hear a lot of players, great players using this, and you're going to be like, ah, that's the pentatonic. And then the next level is to be able to identify number 1 and number 2. Right? And then, like I said, the fun is in combining it with other stuff. So I'm going to play one chorus with just blues pentatonic number 1 and just the F. Now I'm going to do number 2. just the two. Still, I threw in a G and a C, but it was still the same scales. Now I'm going to combine them with the blues scale as well. Quite a bit with these. The hardest part of that for me is not to do other stuff. You know, Lydian dominant, all those kinds of things. But to restrict yourself just to these as you're learning them, you'll start to see it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in there. Okay? That's most of what I got for you. There's a PDF available, as we said, for members. We have a backing track that I recorded, just a little bit of a play along and for you to practice. If you're liking this kind of stuff, you can download that, and both of those in the description. One's for members only. And a reminder that we have, I'm going to take some questions too. So sorry, I should have said that before. If you have some questions, because people might be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's my question. We will get to that. But our summer sale at Open Studio, which is 50% off our annual plan for Open Studio membership, which is our best deal of the year. It's normally only at Black Friday, is available through tonight. So if you're thinking about joining, this would be a great time. You'll get instant access to the backing track, to all the courses, all of Adam Manis's newest courses, harmony games, Fred Hirsch, Christian McBride, all of my courses, Jazz Piano Method, which comes out new every week. And we have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you could just sign up and check it out. No risk at all, no questions asked. You don't have to call me or Adam or something and like beg us to give you your money back. No, it's just a very automatic, easy process for 30 days. Gives you a chance to check it out. But if you are thinking about joining and you want to jump in on that annual, I think I want to say it's $4 a week is what it comes out to, or less than $4. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's less than a cup of coffee, but for a lot of places, that's a lot less. And that's just not less than a cup of coffee a day, less than a cup of coffee per week. So this would be your time to do it today because it expires at midnight New York City time tonight. Go to openstudiojazz.com for that. If you have some questions, Jeffrey Keyser, of course. Jeffrey Keyser's got a brand new composition course that's just brilliant that we've just released. You get instant access to that. The summer sale is not for OS Pro. It is for OS regular membership only. And Emmett Cohen's new course. People are loving Emmett's new course. Full disclosure, I love Emmett. I've known him since he was a youngin'. He still is a youngin', but I've known him for a long time. And I wasn't really nervous when I first talked to him about doing a course, but I was kind of like, how much stuff, like, I know you can play a lot of stuff, but to be able to teach it, I remember being that age, and like I was just sort of starting to figure out how to explain this stuff. But I had a feeling about it, and when he got in here, like, well, you'll see it when you watch the course, but he has such a great approach to education. I think he had such great teachers. He's such a student of the music that he's really found a beautiful way to like the same way that he's able to present his live streams and his gigs and just his music in general. I think educationally he's got that same talent and that same knack, that same spirit. So that's been really fun for people to enjoy that. Do you have perfect pitch or relative pitch, or Adam? Okay, so I think Adam and I are both similar. Neither one of us has perfect pitch. I can, like, if you were to grab me on the street and say, what key is this in? I might be like 80%, I can kind of hear it, but it's definitely not perfect. I'm obviously in the name perfect. So, but I think I've developed just from sort of listening to stuff and having a lot of things. I mean, I guess they call it relative pitch or whatever, where I can identify keys, but that doesn't mean that it's definitely not perfect pitch. So it's not that kind of thing. But I've definitely worked on my ears a lot. I can hear, intervals and stuff, pretty good. I'd say I have like, for jazz musicians and just classical musicians and musicians that I've been around, I've got about A- level ears, I would say. Because sometimes people are like, oh my God, your ears are so amazing. And an A- is good, but it's not an A, and it's not an A+. So that's what keeps me working at it. My dad has like incredible relative pitch. He always says he doesn't have perfect pitch, but I think he does because he can just like hear anything. One of my sons has perfect pitch. So I mean, it's like floating around the family some, but that's why I give myself an A- and look forward to continue to work on it. How would you go about practicing bluesy double stops? So these, you know, with the root on top, works really good for either one of these. And also, you know, these sort of embedded bluesy double stops that resolve nicely, you know, directionally. The voice leading, it's almost like a... So to practice them, you just need to kind of consciously go through some choruses where still within the time and within the vibe, maybe not with these exact lines, although actually you could. Well, that's how you practice it. You just add that F on top to number 1. Yep. That's going to work on a lot of them. So, well, I answered your question. What is good repertoire to learn this blues language? 1 or 2 artists or a couple songs. I mean, you know, Wynton Kelly, Freddie Freeloader. Like he's definitely using some other thing, Lydia and Dominant. But there's a lot of this. You'll start to see this pentatonic. There it is. And then to number 2. You know, so you'll start to see a lot of that within that. Other things, you can check out Thelonious Monk on a lot of stuff. Like I did that. Like his solos on blues, he uses a lot of these too, so I would check him out. Charlie Parker definitely uses it, but oh yeah, for sure. Like on Now's the Time and stuff. You'll start to hear it once. It's like when you've seen something, then you're like, oh, I can't unsee it, but in a good way, I think. What's the question you wish we asked? Let me think about that. That's a great question. Turn it around on me, B.B. King, for sure. Yeah, this is very like foundational blues, like I said at the beginning. You know what I mean? I know I was just throwing out a lot of beboppers and things like that because that's how we think about it. But yeah. So number 1 is 1 minor third, major third. Yep. No. Number 1 is 6 instead of dominant 7. What you're putting there is number 2. But I just made up these numbers and these scales this morning, so don't go like looking for this. I'm sure people have identified this and called this different things. The main thing to know is what it sounds like and what it feels like. This is number 1. Here's number 2. That's the 2 differences. Number 1, number 2. Coming down on the blues scale. What's the difference between Pro and Normal? Oh, for Open Studio. Open Studio Pro is everything we have. So it's all the courses, all the stuff I was just talking about, regular Open Studio membership, plus all of our live classes, which are happening 6 days a week now. With folks like Adam Manis, myself. I just did my weekly live jazz piano method session today. We do them live over Zoom. They're at all different times during the day. We're working on accommodating as many different time zones as we can. We have Jeremy Siskin. We have Chris Parks, Adam Manis, as I mentioned, Kaylee O'Doherty, who's on a little bit of a leave, but she'll be back, one of our fantastic, young, amazing teacher. And we just like get together. Every teacher does it a little bit differently, but the classes all are very clear in terms of what they're covering. They're progressive from 1 week to the next week. The community is really strong in Open Studio Pro because folks show up and help each other and encourage each other, I think. And it's basically a chance to, I don't know, is it like going to, I hate to say it's like going to like jazz college or Berkeley or something, but it kind of is over Zoom. Most of our teachers, all of our teachers have their sound really well dialed in so you can hear stuff. You can see, Adam's overhead keyboard. He has like a repertory club he does. He has different themes for the month with his classes. It's just a lot of really cool stuff. And you can kind of come to whatever you want. We like to call it Peloton for jazz piano because some people have their favorite instructor. Some people go to all the different classes because they've got their life set up where they can do that, which is great. Some people just go to one class a week. There's an archive for everything. So if you can't make it live, like a lot of our classes are at 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Eastern, then you can watch it later in the day. Usually within a couple hours, the archive is up. So you can go not only at your own pace, but at your own time. And it's really been our most impactful, it's not really a course. It's kind of a product. I don't know what you call it. It's a school, but it's not like school as in, oh, I have to go to school. It's like a fun school. It's been our, like, if you really want to get better with your playing, nothing that we offer is going to get you like to Herbie Hancock level by the end of the week. That's not what we're saying. But like within 3 months, give us 3 months, show up regularly, give us 90 minutes a week, going to a couple different classes and practicing each day 20, 30 minutes a day minimum. You will see big improvements in your playing from going to Open Studio Pro. I mean, it's like having a number of great teachers that you can stop in on for ideas. You can ask questions. Some of the teachers, Chris Parks has everybody keep their camera on. You don't have to play, but you have to be engaged. Other people, you can just lurk or whatever. It's a very safe, supportive place. It's not a place where you're going to be look like an idiot. It's not just for advanced players. We have all different levels within there. I would say the sweet spot is really intermediate players. Advanced are definitely rewarded. Beginners can do great in there. So I think it's the best online jazz instructional program ever created. I mean, show me a better one. I'm open to it, but it's really an amazing thing, Open Studio Pro. And it includes everything, all of our other materials, our mentor sessions and everything. So it's like the VIP area. Boom, 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 boom. Bob DeBoo, he's our community music guru that actually heads up all the community engagement there. Is an amazing bass player and has some great bass-centric classes, and his rhythm class, I'm not sure if he's still doing that, or if not, it'll probably come back, is fantastic. But he's great for bass lines and stuff. Yeah, thank you, Shayla, for chiming in. You know better than me. How do you know what to play on the left hand to complement the phrases you want to play on the right? We can limit the phrases to what was covered earlier, and that helps explain things. Yeah, so I purposely didn't cover left hand today because this is like getting these new things. I'm playing the left hand for you. But for any new concepts with the right hand, I encourage half notes. Now, I know I wasn't always sticking to that. So by half notes, I mean no. Why did I mess up my snapping? I can't snap and play and talk at the same time, but really just half notes. None of that, just half notes. Now, in terms of what notes to play, that's what rhythms to play, half notes, two feel, right? You can start with just roots, and then certainly go to fifths. Start to get a little bit of chromatic stuff. Bob's bassline class will help you a lot with this. But also you can transcribe bass players. You know what I mean? Bassline, some good, like... I can't remember that. I transcribed that years ago. Bag's Groove, Percy Heath. Real simple kind of two feel, what he does on the head. Jorge, watching from Guanajuato, Mexico. I hope I'm saying that correctly. You're welcome. Cheers. Gracias. Mi amigo. You're welcome. Thank you guys. I'm just looking to do a couple more questions, and then we're going to jump off of here. How do you know? Okay, we talked about that. Yes, Chris Parks studied 30 years with Barry Harris. Chris, there's a number. Barry Harris was just a giant in our music as a player and as an educator. Probably the greatest, not only jazz piano educator, but just jazz ambassador in the education realm ever. I mean, his concepts are legendary. And Chris Parks, I think, Of course, Barry is no longer with us, but I think that Chris Parks not only studied with him all this time, but he carries on the spirit of not just his specific concepts, but of his approach to music, the joy and the deep understanding of the bebop language, and like not just in a corny way or a theoretical way, but in a very soulful way. We're so lucky to have Chris, and his stuff is, if you're into bebop, Barry Harris, blues, anything that starts with a B, Chris is your man. Are you guys going to keep the You'll Hear It YouTube channel? Yes, we're keeping it. We haven't posted anything because we were trying an experiment, but we actually have. I don't want to announce it because I'm always like, well, what if we don't end up doing it? But the plan is that there's going to be something up there within the next 7 to 10 days that we've already recorded. So keep a lookout for that. Let's just say if anybody's not subscribed to the You'll Hear It separate YouTube channel, first of all, if you aren't subscribed to this channel, but you made it all the way to this point of the video, come on. Can you please give us a little subscribe? It doesn't cost you anything. It really benefits us. Adam and I, we have an ego check daily with each other in which we just look at the number of subscribers and feel good about ourselves. But yeah, please give us a thumbs up and a subscribe here, and then you might want to jump over to the You'll Hear It, because we are going to start posting there again really soon. We actually have a really cool video that's going to be going up there that we just finished yesterday. Would you suggest your course for sax players? Absolutely. We have a wonderful course from Steve Wilson, who to me is one of the best players and teachers, probably the best player and teacher if you add them both up together on the planet right now. I mean, I know other really good ones too. He's as good as anyone. I always have to be careful, but he's amazing. He's got a great course, and a lot of our piano courses are really popular with saxophone players, like especially our beginner piano stuff, like Jazz Piano Jumpstart, if you haven't played much, because it opens up a lot of, I think, things for you. Boom, boom, boom. Blues is so vast, you have to, yeah. Blues, 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 blues. Okay, we talked about repertoire. We talked about relative pitch. Apologies if I missed something up higher. Less than a cup of coffee at that place in the village from the coffee meetup. I mean, $4 a week is going to be less than pretty much any coffee. That's not true. The place I get around the corner, it's $3.65. I think that's what our thing is, though. Yeah, so what they're talking, just real quick once again, so that I make sure I do my homework. We're having a big summer sale over at Open Studio. If you go to openstudiojazz.com, it expires in 8 hours from now. But if you're thinking about joining, I always like to encourage people, because I know how this is. Like, there's so much interesting stuff in the world, right? There's so many things to subscribe to. And yes, this is a subscription. Apologies for that. I know we all have too many subscriptions, but this is one that you're going to love. And this is one that we're not going to you don't have to sign a contract or anything. Even Open Studio Pro, if you're thinking about Open Studio Pro, that's a commitment, but I can tell you, like, the people that are there, like, very few people drop out. I mean, it's such a small percentage that you wouldn't believe me if I told you, but it's because it's so impactful. So what we're actually going to be starting to do very shortly is you're going to have to apply. We tried this before. We didn't have it quite lined up, but like within a number of days, we're going to go back to an application process for Open Studio Pro, because we have to calibrate the number of people we have in, and also we want to have the right kind of people, because as it's grown, and some of our wonderful community leaders are actually in the chat, I can see right now, but Open Studio Pro works because of the great teachers, but also because of the great students. So it's like any kind of situation. In order to get a lot out of something, you got to be a great student. So we're going to have an application. It's not about like how good you can play or if you're advanced, intermediate. It's more about like, are you willing to commit to the community? And that doesn't mean you got to come and teach for us or anything. No, it just means you got to show up, and it's not going to be anything crazy or whatever, but we want to make sure that we get the right kind of people, because we've got the right kind of people. 99% of them that are in there now, it's such a great fit for them. And we've learned a lot from talking to them, from talking to you guys about what makes a successful Open Studio Pro experience. So we're going to have an application process and just a quick interview to make sure it's those kind of people, because that's such a big part of the experience for everybody. And it is a premium product. And so we want to make sure that you guys are having, fellow community members and fellow students that are on the same wavelength about the music and everything. So, but that's also like no commitment and 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're thinking about trying that out, please do. And you might want to do that soon if you don't want to apply. That's going to be easy anyway. Tell us about your academy. What is the course? Open Studio. I don't have time to tell you all about it, but I'll tell you about my part. I do a thing called Jazz Piano Method, and I've been doing it for over 11 years, maybe 12 years now. Every week. I've never missed a week. Very proud of that. And so there's like over 700 lessons in the archive, but I do a new lesson every week. Like today, actually I recorded it just a couple of hours ago. And people that are at Open Studio Pro were watching me on Zoom live as I recorded it. That's one of the things we do. I did For All We Know. And basically I just do like a 20, 30, 40-minute lesson. Like I'll play it. I always make a new lead sheet for it, like kind of with my concepts. And then I just go through and like talk about, you know, like why did I play that? What's a good voicing to use? Should we use our roots? When do we go into time? When do we, you know? So it's more like intermediate and advanced, I would say. It's not, I don't do a lot of beginner stuff there, but as part of our academy, I like the word academy, but as part of Open Studio, you also get access to my Jazz Piano for Beginners, which is, I believe, the best-selling beginner jazz piano course, or possibly any kind of jazz piano course ever on the internet, in the history of the internet. And so that was like our most popular course ever. And then we got Jazz Piano Jumpstart, which is for uber beginners. So we've kind of got everything covered at this point, at least for jazz piano for sure. Thank you guys for everybody. Thank you for the kind words. There's so many kind words. I can't keep up with them, but I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I know, speaking for Adam too, that we both got some comments on our clothes from last week. That really meant a lot. Positive comments for both of us on the podcast. I got a shout out for my shirt that I got for Father's Day. So excited about that. Gospel course. Yes, I know we keep saying it's coming, and I've been gun shy. Like, I've done a fair amount of, you know, gospels. Well, I've done a couple lessons within Jazz Piano Method, so we don't have a course because I just don't feel like, I just can't do it. But I've got a fantastic gentleman that can. He's so busy. He's playing like with the gospel stars and the jazz stars and everybody that I haven't been able to get him in here, but I will redouble my efforts because I want to learn from him. So I don't just do the stuff that I know. How much is the new special again? Annual, 12 months of Open Studio, which includes, it doesn't include Open Studio Pro, but it does include our live mentor sessions on Friday. I should have included that, of which we have folks like Ron Carter was here 2 weeks ago. We've got John Beasley this week doing a private session with just the Open Studio community over Zoom every Friday, a star. So Open Studio, our special is 50% off our annual plan, which is $195 for the entire year, which I've been told is less than $4 a week. Can you spoiler who it is? I can't, because then people are going to be like, you promised me such and such. Please do another video where you and Adam write a song together. That was nerve-wracking. We got lucky on that one, but maybe we will. In minor key, try mixing blues scale with Dorian. Absolutely. Oh, in a minor key. Yep. All right, cool. Apologies for the questions that I missed. And thank you from Abner from Guatemala. Okay, cool. Thank you guys for your comments, for your suggestions, for your presence, for your spirit. Let's all stay connected through the music, because that's what we got. And it's a lot. It ain't nothing, as we say. So I hope that you stay lifted wherever you are in the world. Peace and piano. Happy practicing.